Hello everybody, this is Alec, and today I've got both a review and a rant for you about this, which is my new laptop. So, the rant part will come later. First I'm going to do a little overview of this laptop and things I like about it, things I don't like about it, also why I got it. So, let's start with that. This is a Dell Inspiron 17R, and as you saw from the title, and maybe you can see on the screen, it runs Windows 7, which is something that makes me very happy. And again, that's the ranty part. We'll get to that later. So I want to do a quick overview of this computer. First of all, let's look at it. I'll be doing some spin arounds on there so you can see the different sides of the computer. Speaking of on the right side, one thing I really like about it is that the USB ports are on either side of the disk drive. It gives them a lot of space between them. And it's just something nice. I don't like having them next to each other that much because if you have two things plugged in, it looks cluttered. This computer has 4 USB ports, and they are all USB 3.0, which is pretty cool. And I have a USB 3.0 external hard drive, so that will be actually useful to me. Up until I got that, I have not needed USB 3, but now that I have it, woohoo! In terms of its features, it's pretty standard. It has a DVD-RW drive, just a standard keypad with a number pad, and 8 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of hard drive, but to tell you the truth, I don't really care about either of those specs because RAM is upgradable and hard drives can be expanded through external hard drives. Plus, pretty much the bare minimum hard drive I've seen now is 500 gigabytes, and to be honest, that is way more than I will probably ever use. So, hard drive and RAM was not an issue at all, but again, 8 gigs of RAM and a terabyte hard drive. But the thing that really enticed me about this computer was its processor, because this computer has, wait for it, wasn't clicking there, it has a Intel Core i7-3612QM CPU at 2.1 gigahertz. It's actually a quad-core processor. And I don't know how common quad-core processors are in laptops today, but I know they certainly seem uncommon to me. The other thing is, this is a year-old processor, but at the time it came out, it was very high-end. I believe it retailed for $378. You can get laptops now for less than that much, so very nice processor. In fact, if you look at the Windows Experience Index, it gets a 7.5 for calculations per second. Remember, 7.5 is out, or that number is out of 7.9, so it's only 0.4 away from getting a perfect score. Actually, it's outperformed by RAM operations per second, which is pretty cool. It means the processor will definitely be used to its full potential. And this overall score of 5.9 is really impressive because, first of all, 5.9 is a high score, but it's actually based on the hard disk drive. The hard drive on this computer is the single limiting factor to it, and indeed that's the case for most computers these days, but I mean, it actually gets the lowest rating. Believe it or not, for gaming graphics and Windows Aero performance, it gets 6.5 in both categories. And that's really, really impressive on its own, but it's also impressive because this computer does not have a GPU. It's running the Intel Integrated Graphics 4000 or whatever it is. Now, you may think that a 6.5 is not that impressive, and you're probably right. The reason why I say it's impressive is because I really don't do any gaming, and as far as what I use this computer for, that will be way more than I ever need. But so anyway, the Windows Experience Index, it's a great computer overall, and in fact our desktop that we got a year ago, which is from ZT Systems, great computer. At the time it was like the highest end you could get, very inexpensive though through Costco. But it has, like 16 gigabytes of RAM, a 2 terabyte hard drive, and it had a quad-core i7 processor as well. That computer actually has a lower score than this one. Its processor is 0.1 faster, it gets to 7.6, but all the other scores are actually lower than this laptop. Which is really great because I've known that that computer is very powerful, and that means that this laptop is even more powerful. Now maybe the Windows Experience Index is adjusted for laptops, but I don't think that's the case. If it is, feel free to let me know in the comments. One thing I want to say about the keyboard real quick while I get to a demonstration I want to do here is that it actually, I'm kind of neutral on the keyboard because it's not lighted, and I would have liked it if it was lighted. But it's really not that big of a deal because you can just turn the lights on or get one of those USB light thingies, so I'm not real upset about that. the keyboard does kind of have a mushy feel to it, but you know, I've noticed I type really well on it. I make fewer errors on this keyboard than I think I do on any other keyboard. So even though it feels weird to me, I actually type really well. But what I'm about to demonstrate is that the speakers on this thing, they are impressive. If you look on the bottom, there is actually a small subwoofer. Now, you can laugh at the term subwoofer because this is a laptop. How do you fit one in there? And indeed, it is kind of laughable to call it a subwoofer. But it makes this computer sound really good. Now, instead of playing music and getting in trouble with Microsoft, or getting in trouble for having third-party content, I'm just going to play the standard Microsoft sounds. Let's do device connect. Disconnect. You can't feel, but you can probably hear that it has a very deep tone, which most laptops don't have. Let's do exclamation. Well, that's not a good example because all laptops can play high frequency sounds. How about low battery alarm? Just a very full-bodied sound. Log on. Change theme. Oh, I guess that's the same sound. I don't know too many of the sounds by their name. How about sleep? Oh, I didn't know what that is. But here's another thing that I can do. Let's go into the speech section here. Where is it? Here we are. The text-to-speech, Microsoft Anna. Let's just listen to her voice. Now, again, this laptop has fantastic speakers for a laptop. So just listen to what this sounds like.
You have selected Microsoft Anna, English United States as the computer's default voice. You have selected Microsoft Anna, English United States as the computer's default voice.
You can actually, I can hear, maybe you can in the video, but I can hear resonance coming from this table from the laptop. And, you know, resonance from a laptop, that's something I've never experienced. But the speakers are so good that if I were to be watching a movie on this laptop through its own speakers, I would think they're fine. I think they're on par with many flat panel TVs today. They're not that loud, but that's not concerning to me. What's concerning is how well they sound, because I'm someone who really likes to have good sounding speakers. Cuckoo clock. Other thing about it is the form factor. At first I was a little disappointed in it because it's kind of clunky, it's chunky, it looks bigger, but in a way I kind of like it because other than the sleek computers that you see today, this seems more serious. This seems more like it's to get stuff done than to be a fancy laptop that people carry around and look, you know, classy or chic in. Whereas this is like, this computer is to do things. And I kind of appreciate that. I think it's good. In terms of the screen, very good quality screen. It's not full HD. It's 1600 by 900 though, and that's awfully close. Contrast as you tilt it changes quite a bit on this screen, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because I know lots of laptops are like that. And side to side, that's actually quite good. I can see very clearly from where I'm sitting. And overall, a good screen. And I actually have the brightness quite low right now so that the camera exposure is correct. The touchpad is a little weird. The tap to click, like, you know, when you just do cancel, I could just do that. Sometimes it doesn't work so well. And the buttons are a little mushy, but most of the time I'm using an external mouse anyway. Maybe, depending on how you use it, you might want to try it out first before you buy it. One thing that I read online was that these have some motherboard issues. I read them from the reviews on Amazon of the same model. And hopefully that won't come to fruition, but those reviews were all from like August of 2012. And this computer was built, I want to say, in late March based on the file created dates that are in the programs list. They say, I think, March 28th. So I'm guessing that this computer was built that day. And hopefully by that time they would have figured out this problem. Overall, I'm very happy with this computer. And I think, you know, it's very fast. It can do almost anything. And is a laptop, which is in and of itself impressive. And the best part was it was only $750, and to get this performance from a computer that inexpensively, I think is fantastic. But now we're going to get on to the ranty part of this video, where I talk about why I wanted a computer with Windows 7 and why I was so happy when I ran across this one. Alright, and so now we move on to the ranty part of this video. So, I will start by saying, Windows 8. What to do? Basically, when I was shopping for laptops, they pretty much all have Windows 8 on them. And when you search for laptops that don't, they tended to be more expensive per the same performance than the Windows 8 computer. I have a feeling that's because Microsoft is really pushing Windows 8 because they really want people to get it, but in my opinion, Windows 8 is going to be another Vista. And the reason why is because it's not needed. I felt like Vista was like a prettying up of XP. There were some things that were functionally different, but it feels very similar to me it feels very similar to XP to me because, you know, the taskbar wasn't really redesigned. It was just, it looked prettier. Windows systems were pretty the same. I mean, the control panel was different, but I mean, basically Windows Vista seemed to me to be more like a pretty up XP. Functionally not too different, and of course the fact that it needed much more processing power to do the same thing really got that bashed. Now, I don't want to bash Windows 8 because I understand that it's more secure and it actually speeds up many computers. But the problem I have with it is the fact that the start button is gone, and that's what a lot of people have a problem with. And basically the fact that I would have to relearn how to use my computer. And I know that there are things that you can install that make it look like Windows 7, but then it's like, well, what's the point of Windows 8? And I kind of had this mental argument in my head. Should I just deal with Windows 8? Should I learn about it? Should I learn to use it? Because my brother has a Windows 8 laptop and he thinks it's pretty good. But, you know, I was just thinking, I just want to have a smooth transition into this is a new computer and this is how I'm going to use it. I'm going to know how to use it, know everything about it, and basically just have a separate computer that's fast and that I can keep stuff to make videos and just do maybe some photo editing, all on one computer that's mine. I can take different places. I don't want to relearn how to use Windows because I already know Windows 7. So, you know, if you really like Windows 8, if you're someone who has Windows 8 and really likes it, feel free to tell me why. I'd actually like to know because I've read some reviews like Windows 7 versus Windows 8. There are some people that really like some of the features of Windows 8, but the problem that I have is how much Microsoft is trying to squeeze it into the tablet market, and I don't think it's working. I believe I read that sales of Microsoft Surface represent 2% of the tablet market. And indeed, I actually have an iPad, and I appreciate it for the fact that it's a tablet, because I like how the interface is different. It does some things that you couldn't really do with a laptop. It's nice and small, it's easy for browsing the web, and its battery lasts a long time. But I don't want to have a tablet interface on my laptop. And I know that, you know, that's the start screen isn't totally a tablet interface, and that there is a desktop mode, but it's just, to me, why is that even there? It's because, in my mind, it's like, I want to get to the desktop. I want to be able to have my video editor open, have Firefox in the background. I can switch between the two really easily, maybe split the two, maybe put my video editor on the left side and put in some file exploring on the right side. Just have that freedom and know already this, you just, you know, do the snap thing. And I believe that feature is also on Windows 8, but my point is, basically it boils down to, I know how to use this computer. I didn't have to learn anything about it, didn't read the manual, just deleted the bloatware, got it all set up, and, you know, it's ready. Whereas with Windows 8, I would have had to adjust to different procedures, find out how you change settings, and do all sorts of stuff in a different way. And to me, it just didn't make any sense. It was like, well, I just want to do with what I'm familiar with. And again, I don't want to say Windows 8 is dumb, because I know it really is a better operating system in terms of its performance. It's leaner, more secure, and I know it's got that weird unified boot thing or whatever. Although this computer's boot up time is pretty good. It's actually a little slower than I'd like it, but the period between when it actually starts booting Windows is very fast. But I generally hibernate my computers anyway. But my point, really, again, it boils down to, I don't want to relearn how to use a computer because I'm already familiar with Windows 7. I know it like the back of my hand, and I like Windows 7, so I didn't want to get Windows 8. And when I was searching for this laptop, I went between 3 different requirements that I had in my head, and I kept prioritizing one over the other. One was that I'd like it to be fast, and that's actually what won out. The other was that I wanted to have a full HD screen, and the other was that I wanted to have Windows 7. I was using Amazon to comparison shop because, you know, you can do things like I want to search by screen size, I want to search by brand, I want to search by processor, I want to search by OS. And that was nice because I did know I want a 17-inch laptop. Since I'm doing video editing, I want something big where I can see more, I can have more stuff happening on the screen at one time. And that was the one thing that I was definitely going to get. I was not going to get a 15.6-inch laptop. But so I found a Sony laptop. Well, actually, first I found an Acer laptop and I like Acer and Gateway. They're the same thing now, and I do like them. My netbook is an Acer. I've never had a problem with them. But the Acer was, I think, $1,000, or like, no, it was $919. And it had a quad-core i7, and I think also 8 gigs of RAM and a terabyte hard drive, and it did, actually, to tell you the truth, it was listed as a full HD display, but it didn't have one. So that knocked it out of the ranks. Then I found a Sony, and the Sony did have a full HD display, but the problem with that was the Core i7 was a very expensive computer, and the Core i5 was reasonable, but I wasn't sure if I was okay with that. And the other thing is, it had a battery life of 2 hours, and people said that really it's more like 1 hour, or maybe even as little as 45 minutes. This laptop is rated for 6, so it's a little better. I don't really ever use it on the battery, so I don't know, or I haven't ever used it on the battery. If I didn't use it, that wouldn't have been important. But I don't know yet what it gets, because I leave it plugged in, because so far I've been using some pretty intense stuff for it, so I haven't really wanted to run on the battery because it would have drained quickly. But anyway, so the battery life knocked the Sony out of the way, and all these computers I was looking at had Windows 8, and I was thinking I'm just going to deal with it. But then I decided to look at Micro Center, because if you remember, Micro Center is where I got that refurbished PC, and I really like dealing with Micro Center. The people there are nice. And I saw this computer online, and I said, wow, a quad-core processor for $750, and it's got Windows 7. So I just said, okay, I'm getting this computer. Went over there, snatched them up, and the guy told me that 3 days earlier they had 15, and the day that I got there they had 3. So they were selling really well, and he said that's especially impressive because 17-inch laptops generally don't sell that much. And I understand because they are big, but when I found this laptop, I was like, oh my goodness, that is awesome. It's fast, it's not that expensive, and it's got Windows 7. It doesn't have a full HD display, but I said, you know what, I can deal with that if I can get a computer with Windows 7. So I know that Windows 8 is going to have a patch soon. We'll see what that does. But again, I know Windows 7 like the back of my hand. I don't want to have to deal with relearning an operating system. The transition from XP to Vista was very easy, and from Vista to 7 was very easy, and that's because Microsoft didn't mess with their interface. It was always, you had a desktop, you start button, or you could use the Windows key, whatever you wanted to do. You had your icons, everything was pretty much the same. And then with Windows 8, they're like, nah, we're giving you something different because we think it looks nicer, and then it will help unify things between tablets and laptops and desktops. So I was just of the opinion, Windows 8, there's no point. So anyway, that's my ranty part. Overall, really happy I got this laptop. I think it will serve me very well. And this computer will be used, I believe I said, a lot for making these videos. And I'll let you know, I'll throw up an annotation of how long it took to render this video. And as I know, I was using my mom's laptop the first time I used the software that I have, and it took about 4 times as long to render the video as the video length was. We'll see how this laptop does. But anyway, if you watched this whole video, Wow, thank you. That was nice. I'm glad you were okay with me just talking to you. Or at you, actually, because this is through the internet. But anyway, I'm Alec, also known as Edison Photo 1. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know if you like Windows 8 or not. And let me know if you think Windows 7 should just stay the way it is, and people shouldn't really need Windows 8. But again, totally up to you. Then let me know. I would seriously like to know how you like Windows 8, and if you think that it's easy to learn, or if you think that it's really great, or if you think it's a hassle. Just anything, any information you got. Awesome. So anyway, I keep talking. Again, I'm Alec, also known as Edison Photo 1. Feel free to leave any comments, questions. I'll try and answer them as fast as I can. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video.